Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and it is September the 22nd, 2025. I've got to tell you this, the level of vitriol, not tons of it, thankfully, but the number of really, really negative personal emails to me since I have been saying, and since I do say, that the rapture will not occur tomorrow, September 23rd, 2024, those negative comments have kind of ratcheted up. I think a lot of people are basically realizing it's not going to happen. There is going to be an awful lot of cognizant dissonance. There's a fancy term for you. But cognizant dissonance basically says, okay, the prediction failed. And let me say again, folks, I am absolutely convinced that come September, let's just say the 27th or 28th or whatever, maybe even October 1st, there's going to be a humongous rapture. Yeah, there's going to be a removal of hundreds of thousands of videos made by people who said, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and the rapture is going to be September 23rd. Those videos are just going to suddenly disappear, not to be found. There won't be any clothes left on the floor, or cars crashing, or planes falling out of the air. No, it'll just be videos disappearing in the days following September 23rd, 2025. I guarantee it. Okay? All right. So, as I promised yesterday, and I'm only going to say something tomorrow as September 23rd will arrive and the rapture does not occur. I have a few closing comments there. And then, if something else pops up, then I'll address it. But in the meantime, all right, I want to begin to dig into this concept of Shemeni Atzerat as predictive of the new creation. Now, go back to the first few videos that I introduced, in which I introduced Shemeni Atzerat in our beginning of it. Because what you need to understand is that in Jewish thought, and in rabbinic thought, and in scholarly thought, it is absolutely recognized that the concept of Shemeni Atzerat, which was the eighth day, you have Sukkot, 7-day feast, and the day after the seventh day, which would be the eighth day, was to be a holy convocation unto the Lord, a feast unto the Lord. It would be a Sabbath in which they were to do no labor whatsoever. And as a Sabbath, it was a type and a shadow of something to come. Well, the Jews understood that to be a new creation, a new beginning, because Sukkot is the feast that occurred at the turning of the year. It's the end of the year. So Shemeni Atzerat initiated the new year, thus new beginnings. Well, there are many, many passages, even in the Old Testament, that speak to us very, very eloquently, prophetically, of the coming of a new creation. Now, they don't even have to use the term new creation, but they speak about, sometimes they speak about the passing of the old creation. And what would remain after that would be the righteousness of God. Isaiah 51, 6 and following is a prime example of that. Isaiah 51, 6 and following. Lift your eyes to the heavens and on the earth beneath. They shall perish, but your righteousness, O Lord, shall endure forever and ever. Folks, that's one of the bases for Matthew 24, verse 35. Heaven and earth shall pass away. My words shall never pass away. Well, the key to that passage is that the heaven and earth that is in consideration in Isaiah 51 is not literal material creation. It's the old covenant creation. So, the very first passage that I really want to examine is Psalms 102. You know, years and years ago, I have to tell you this little anecdote. I was having a conversation with someone, and I just asked him, show me the text in which the Bible confidently affirms the end of material creation. And I specifically challenged them to show me the Old Testament text because Hebrews chapter 1 quotes from Psalms 102. I was very aware of that. And this fellow was appealing to Hebrews chapter 1, verse 10. So I said, well, you do know that Hebrews 1 is quoting from Psalms 102. So are you telling me that Psalms 102 predicted the end of material creation? Because after all, you're telling me Hebrews 1 predicted the end of time, the end of material creation, and he's quoting from Psalms 102. So I said, are you aware of what Psalms 102 says? He wasn't. And he said so. He said, I don't have to know what it says because Hebrews tells me what it says. I said, no, that's not the end of the story. The end of the story is, what does Psalms 102 actually say? Because that's what the Hebrew writer is drawing on. Now, what does Psalm 102 actually say? Well, in the first place, the psalmist said, hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry for help come up before you. Do not turn your face from me in my day of distress. When I cry out to you, or in the day, I should note that, in the day that I cry out to you, answer me quickly. Now, you know, I got to say this. There are lots of folks, including a lot of former preterists, who say, look, quickly does not mean soon. It means rapidly. So here is David crying for God to help him in his distress. I believe it's David, perhaps not, but I believe that's correct. So here's the psalmist crying out or saying to the Lord, Lord, when I cry out to you in my distress, do not turn your face from me. That word face is from, in the Septuagint, is from the Greek word prosopon, the first cousin, if not the twin brother, of parousia. They both mean presence. So here is the psalmist crying out, saying, Lord, when I cry out in my distress, do not turn your face from me, but in the day that I cry out to you, answer my prayer swiftly, quickly. Now, was the psalmist saying, now look, when I cry out in my distress and I cry out for help, I'm not worried about when you're going to help me, Lord. No. I'm not worried about it at all. I just want you to, when you finally get around to it, I just want you to do it fast. I just want you to do it bang, 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 rapidly. Not soon. I'm not worried about when. I'm just worried about the manner. Argumentum ad desperatum. Well, anyway, I just needed to say that. So let's read down for time consideration here. In verse 12 and following, the psalmist is uttering a prayer and a word of confidence. I would say a prophetic word of confidence. You, Lord, abide forever. I'm reading from the New American Standard here. Not the absolute best translation of the text, but it's not too bad. And your name to all generations. You will arise and have compassion on Zion, for it's time to be gracious to her. The appointed time has come. Now, we're going to see here momentarily that this is a case of projected imminence. He is actually looking forward to the time of the Lord acting. He is looking forward to the time in which Yahweh would come and act on his behalf, not knowing when it would be, but saying, Lord, when you act, back here at verse 2, Lord, when I cry out to you, answer me quickly. So now he is saying, Lord, you abide forever, and you will arise, and you will have compassion on Zion. Well, there may very well be an initial typological application of some event that was very, very imminent in the psalmist's life. Matter of fact, I had set my mind to do it, and I failed to do it, to look into the background a little more on Psalms 102 to find out what the specific historical circumstance was so far as we can determine. Okay. So it's very distinctly possible that there was an immediate or imminent time of trouble in which the psalmist was crying out and expecting imminent vindication, imminent relief. And thus he said, the time has come. But the New Testament writers pick up on this text and they apply this text to their generation. The book of Hebrews, particularly. Okay, now I'm running out of time here. So I just want to lay that in front of us. That it is certainly possible that there was an imminent, relevant situation that the psalmist was crying out to the Lord and affirming his confidence that the Lord was going to vindicate him very, very soon. But the New Testament writers quote from Psalms 102, especially in regard to the coming redemption of Zion. The Hebrew writer says, you have come to Mount Zion. Hebrews chapter 12, 21 and following. Folks, that's a reflection of many, many, many Old Testament prophecies that foretold the time of the redemption of Zion. It's not just one. It's not just Psalms 102, but it is inclusive of Psalms 102. So again, I'm going to look a little bit closer at the specific historical circumstance of Psalms 102, and I'll share that with you when I do that. Well, then he continues, and he says, verse 14, surely your servants find pleasure in her, that's Zion's stones, and feel pity for her dust. So the nations will fear the name of the Lord, and all the kings of the earth your glory, for the Lord has built up Zion. He has appeared in his glory. He has regarded the prayer of the destitute and has not desired or despised their prayer. Now, what did he say back there in verse 1? Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. In the day when I call, answer me quickly. So now he is affirming he's regarded the prayer of his saints. That's why I say it may be distinctly possible. He's talking about some imminent situation, and yet the New Testament writers pick up on this theme of the establishment and the glorification of Zion at the coming of the Lord. Isn't that what it says? He, that's the Lord, has appeared in his glory. Well, Jesus speaks, the New Testament writers speak of Christ coming in his glory, coming in the glory of the Father. Matthew 16:27, Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, then shall he sit on the throne of his glory. This is common messianic material and themes. So, keeping in mind that the New Testament writers appeal to this language of the coming of the Lord for the glorification of Zion and for the vindication of his saints. Those 3 points, all right? I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to develop it on the flip side. In the meantime, don't forget, join William Bell and me tonight on Two Guys in a Bible on Fulfilled Radio, a voice you can trust. We're going to be developing even more some of the themes that we have been talking about. We may or may not discuss the rapture. I don't know. Not worried about that. But we'll have some really, really good stuff because we've been talking about the Abrahamic covenant blessings and how critical that doctrine is to understanding the entire narrative of biblical eschatology. Okay? Hey, thank you. I'll see you on the flip side.